Here are 8 questions that will help you understand if you're in the good way to become rich, or rather if you need to change something. Everyone wants to earn more, to be financially free, but it is not always easy to understand if you're doing right, because there is no one validating it, nor anything that tells you that you're on the right path. Well, I've studied hundreds of millionaires and I've read many books about the topic. And here I want to share with you the 8 questions that you should ask yourself and that you should use as a roadmap for your financial journey. A roadmap that will show you the areas in which you must improve. So take pen and paper to note down your answers and let's start. But firstly, some rules to do that. Because if you want to do it correctly, you have to be honest with yourself. Because no one is judging you. And you're doing this for your own good. Because it is better to have a low score and work on the things to improve rather than doing nothing. And secondly, what you will have to do, for every question, you will have to score yourself from 1 to 3, where 1 is never, 2 is sometimes, and 3 is always. And so at the end of the questions, we'll see together where you stand and what you should do to improve. And so at number 1, there is a characteristic that really distinguishes those that will become rich. Because the world is evolving, as well as businesses and even the ways to work. And without that, Apple wouldn't have created the iPhone, as well as Musk wouldn't have created Tesla. And that's why you should always think deeply about what you've been told, about what you learned, because you have to challenge the status quo. You can't just accept things as they are. You have to make them evolve. And so the first question is, do you challenge the status quo? And remember, you have to score from 1 to 3. Number 2, you have now challenged the status quo, but doing only that won't make the difference, because Apple had to release the iPhone on the market to concretize its vision. They didn't spend years and years overthinking it and never doing anything. That's why you have to take action, because otherwise all will be useless, nothing will happen. You can't just wait for things to come to you. And so, do you take action rather than overthinking? Number 3, taking action is important, but you don't want to be reckless. You can't just leave your job without money and to start the new business that you thought the day before. And at the same time, you shouldn't either take the safest route, because yes, it might lead to security, but it will never lead to richness. And so, as it is for investing, you have to take calculated risk, which means that you will be under control of what will happen, because you have understood and mitigated the risk. And so, do you take calculated risk rather than always taking the safest route? Number 4, which is probably the most important point of them all, because everything that will happen to you will happen because you've used your knowledge. And this, your knowledge, is what makes the difference between failure and success. And that's why learning new things all the time is vital to become rich and successful. And so, are you continuously learning new things? 5, we all know some guy with the fancy car that is always showing off his new purchases. Well, he is playing the status game, which means you use your watch or your shoes to measure your financial success compared to the others. And this will always lead you to spend a lot of money to feel better. Because you can have a high income, but if you spend everything, you will never be wealthy. On the opposite, you have the wealth game, where you spend your money to develop yourself, to build a business, to make investments. So you're using your money on things that will bring you value, that will make you wealthy. And so, are you playing the wealth game rather than the status game? Number 6, as said, you can have a high income but also be poor. Because if you're spending everything you have, if you're living month by month, you're never going to be wealthy. You'll never be able to feel financially free, because you will always be dependent on your job. And that's why you must know how you use your money. You must understand what you do with it and what is the impact of that on your finances. And so, do you know and understand the impact of all of your expenses? Number 7, and this is something without which you just can't become rich. Also because this is the first source of money for most of the millionaires. And it goes along with the fact that the goal of being rich is also to not need to work to arrive to the end of the month. And this is why you need to invest your money. You need it to work for you while you are sleeping, so that it will grow automatically, whatever you do, wherever you are. And so, do you put your money at work for you? Number 8, and this is the wealth killer by definition. Because if you don't manage this one, you have no chance of getting rich. Because buying an expensive house with a mortgage, a car, or just shopping with your credit card means that you're creating bad debt, which is debt that is not generating any value to you. And if you create a huge debt, it means that you're playing the status game or that you just don't understand your expenses. And so accumulating this debt over the time will make you have high interest and put you in an extremely difficult situation because it will be super difficult to accumulate money to generate wealth. And so the final question, do you avoid bad debt? Okay, we went through the questions and so now let's see the results. But firstly, sum all the results that you put on your paper to have the final result. And so if you're between 8 and 12, I'm sorry, but you're way off on your finances and you really need to take action. You probably need the help of someone and you surely need to learn more about personal finance. So for your own good, please take this seriously. And so start reading about personal finance. Watch videos on YouTube. There are many resources like my channel that can help you. So if you're between 13 and 16, you have to do some major improvement to get on the right path. The situation is less critical than in the previous case, but the advice is extremely similar. And so what you could do is actually also to subscribe to this channel for videos that can help you on these subjects. And what you should do is to focus on the areas that you have identified as a low score, because working on these areas will immediately show some progress and it will be easier after that to get on the right path. If you are between 17 and 20, you're on the good way. Surely there is something in which you can still improve, but you probably already know how to find your resources to learn about personal finance. And so my advice to you is to focus and go more in depth in the areas where you had the lower score. And so if you're between 21 and 24, clearly know what you're doing, you're on the good path to becoming rich, and so you're doing a great job. You just have to continue doing what you're doing. And so now you know if you're going the right direction or not. And thanks to that, you will see that you will probably have to change some of your habits, because habits are what keep us from making changes in our lives. And the same it is for our finances. That's why if you don't want to be poor, you have to watch this video. Thank you for watching and see you soon.